Well, hello, everybody. This is, of course, something you didn't expect today because we didn't announce it on the social media terribly well this time. And I don't know why I decided to stick my stupid icon up there. That's not what this is about. This is not the Painting with MenothJohn show. This is, of course, the joy of playing, and I am MenothJohn. But with me, of course, are the two men that this would not be possible without Mr. David D.C. Carl.
How's it going?
Right over there.
Yep, except your camera's reversed, Jeff, and I followed that same tree. There
that
you go.
Way.
Yep, exactly.
There's DC.
That's almost my calling card on my show. And of course, we have Mr. Jeff Easterwood.
How's it going?
Yeah, buddy, it's Friday afternoon, and the world can suck it because it's been a hell of a week.
Yeah, that's exciting.
So it's been 2 months now since the last time we did one of these?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So
I don't remember. I'll have to check my emails.
It was about a couple months ago. Yep.
So, we've always envisioned this as being kind of a 3-part type of a series. And, who knows? We'll probably be more than that because we enjoy getting together on interwebs and shooting the shit.
Yeah.
But today we wanted to talk about, David, why don't you break loose to everyone who's watching, all probably 0 people, what we're going to be talking about and what the show's going to be about today.
So back when they did the Bob Ross, The Joy of Painting, marathon, couldn't think of the word there for a second. I played that in the background sometimes while I was working on things or doing other stuff on the computer, and just know that that's part of kind of the origin of some of your painting joy for you as well, John. So
Indeed.
It was something that I was thinking about and thinking, there's so much in here that really is about just having fun. Like how welcoming he is. And we talked about that in one of our episodes, the I'd Like to Welcome You episode. And then also the aspect of it where that I'd like to talk about this week is the part where it's like, it's your river, do what you want, or it's your mountain, you do what you want. And in our case, as it applies to miniatures games and to the gaming hobby in general, it's your game, you do what you want. So many people want to kind of put the game into little boxes, and this is the only way to play. But I think for each of us, there's some real joy that comes from breaking out of those boxes. Some of the most fun games I've had of various miniatures games are the ones where we've done something unique, something interesting and fresh. And it can really be a good time, but you also have to be willing to remember it's your game, you do what you want.
Absolutely. And I look back on some of when I first started playing the game of War Machine and Hordes back when I lived in the Intermountain region, the way I got introduced, the first time I ever played in any type of an organized event, it was a non-standard event. It was what was called Hamburger Hill. And Hamburger Hill, what's awesome about it is that it doesn't play like most tournaments where you have round after round after round. It's a continuous event that lasts for a period of time for like 2 hours, and you set the time. And what would happen is you would have your army would come in and off the table as it got destroyed, and it was set up such that you would come onto the table and you would immediately either kill someone else or kill 2 other sets of people, and it just led to all these completely bananas combinations and things like that. So, I mean, that was my introduction to playing these kinds of different games. Jeff, what are your thoughts on that?
So when I started the very first event I had was Tupor for Gen Con, which is kind of a pretty loose event. It's I started in April, and it was till August until I actually got into tournaments. And what I really enjoy, my favorite organized play is I like leagues, because leagues, they get crazy models, and you get these scenarios that are like very narrative, and you get the fluff, and you're reading through the fluff, and I'm like, oh well, this is this storyline. I'm playing through the storyline, and I love. For me, when I put models on the table, I have a story. I have a story for every battle. So, like, Lord Carver with his bunch of brigands, they're attacking Kador because there's, like, Irisk and some guys. And so, if I lose, it's fine. We're just going to run off in the forest because we were just getting supplies anyway. But if I win, I'm like, yeah, Lord Carver's is going to go have a feast now because he beat a big bad Irisk. And so all of those, the fluff for me is really deep in Iron Kingdoms, so that you whenever you play, there's this very cinematic feel to every battle, and you can put together a place for every battle with the terrain and everything.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I mean, and it was for me coming into a this was really my first miniatures game that I ever played, and these are back in the days too when before Steamroller really became a really mature format as well.
Right.
And for me that was a way of, because I was no damn good at the game, but that type of a situation kind of set itself up to be a very welcoming kind of an experience for me.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I enjoy so in St. Louis we have a ton of people that play here, and so my first couple of tournaments I went like 0-4 because this way, I'm a new guy. I've been playing 4 months. And I got my Signar battle box, and I had to get a couple of jacks to play. And so I just kept buying jacks because they were the cheapest thing with the most points. And I had all these jacks and striker. I'm running around and I'm getting beat like crazy. But it was fun because everyone was welcoming and everyone had a good time. And they helped me with the rules and everything. And I think there's a lot to say about playing in tournaments, even if you're not a competitive player. You learn the rules, you learn how to play, you learn a lot about really about your meta, about like who's who and who's a really good player that you can learn from. And that's how I learned all about who's in my meta and how they play and how to learn how to play from people that either have my faction or are really hard to play against. So that was definitely good.
So maybe go ahead.
Talking
David.
about tournaments, one of the ones that always comes to mind for me when we're talking about things that are fun or exciting or creative is we had a team tournament once where we had a lot of newer players, and so we tried to link up some of the veterans with some of the newer players, and so the new players were able to learn a lot from the person they were teamed with, as well as learning from their opponents. They were also able to win more often because every game, like, one new person was winning and one veteran was winning because they were in a team.
Sure.
Just a lot of interesting, crazy things can happen, which keeps the veterans interested. When you're playing Jeff's crazy striker all jack list alongside, say, a Crick's army or something,
Right.
It's going to feel very different.
Yeah. And, I think that's one of the strongest sort of aspects to the what they, I guess I've heard called the Adepticon style team tournament.
Yeah.
Where you have these insane combinations that have no business whatsoever being on the table at any time. And as someone who lived through all that play testing, Dave, I'm sure you look at it and go, well, that's just not even right.
Which is fine, though.
Yeah, absolutely. It is fine.
It really is about having those fun moments, those memorable things that happen. I remember watching an Adepticon team tournament where one of the guys, he actually had lost his Warcaster, so the other guy just started like attacking some of his own stuff, but then they did some crazy combination and went for a Hail Mary and threw the other dude's Warjack with a War Beast on top of an opposing Warlock, and it just devolved into madness, but they were all having so much fun.
Yeah.
That it didn't matter anymore who wins or loses. Everyone won because it was just such a good time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One way I think that maybe we can take this topic and put it into a format that might help kind of drive the discussion forward is we can start off by we've been talking a little bit about miniatures games initially, and of course we have Jeff's cat. Now that we have wildlife on the podcast, we are in good shape. Usually when I'm doing Penny with MenothJohn, I'll have Rich Brotman from Beer Machine on. He'll have Pickles the cat, and Pickles the cat gets more interest than anything that we're talking about. I promise you that.
I sit on a mouse.
We could talk about some of our favorite alternative formats for some of our favorite games a little bit, and then we could probably we talked about the creative aspect of the hobby. We could talk a little bit about color schemes and growing your painting skills and things like that. That's something that I've been exploring on my show a little bit here more recently. And then, one other thing that we can talk about too as we get on, maybe a little bit later, we'll talk about board games because there's a lot of creativity you can bring into board games too. So, because I don't want this to be strictly just about miniatures games, because we try to keep the breadth of our interest a little bit more than that. So, well, I mentioned the Hamburger Hill as a real favorite one of mine at first, and the thing that kind of you get points for having different parts of your army in a circle in the middle, like a mosh pit, so it drives interaction, and it has. And I'll be happy to put up some of the rules for some of these kinds of things if I still have them. Jeff, what's one of your favorite alternative formats that you've ever played in? You mentioned, I think you were mentioning a little bit earlier about Mangled Metal, Tooth and Claw with nothing but open fists and power attacks.
Yeah, like I love Mangled Metal, Tooth and Claw because it's just so crazy. And I was trying to propose a tournament where you just take it's basically like Royal Rumble. You just take Beast and Jacks with open fists, and you run them around and you just power attack everything. So it's basically just people throwing each other and headbutting and like arm locking. It's just running around and basically just wrestling each other with jacks, which is kind of neat.
By the way, I'd like the audience to realize we've now made it to the 15-minute spot, I believe, and that is the first wrestling reference that we've had Jeff make.
I know.
So I think
15 minutes.
I know, that's a long time, man. That's a long
pretty good.
time. That's like
keeping it under wraps. It's pretty funny.
So, and I think that's a great alternative format, and one that even stresses knowledge of what the different models can bring to the party as far as that's concerned is. And as a Trolls player, having I can bring any of my damn beasts. They all got 2 open fists, which is super sweet.
Yeah, and it's really neat because for me, one of the models I fell in love with was the Wrestler, like the black-hide Wrestler, because it can get thrown, it can stand up, it can do all of its attacks while it's knocked down and move around and all kinds of crazy stuff. And I thought that if you just had a format, like you just get one of those what do you call it, like the WWE wrestling rings, and you just stick Warjacks and Warbeasts in there and you just throw each other around the ring. I think that'd be a super fun format.
There you go.
David? So Jeff, if you want to level that up a little bit, add in a bunch of scrap thralls that move randomly by the deviation AoE. Yeah. And so you could be chucking them at each other like grenades.
Nice.
Yeah.
Let it be the full pow of the bomb of the death blast if it hits, and the half pow just if it misses. So that way you're whipping these scrap grenades at each other and stuff too. There's all kinds of crazy scenarios and stuff.
Those are the crowd. And so when
yeah,
you get out of the ring, you start tossing grenades in at people, and then they have to get out of the ring, start beating you up, and throwing you into the crowd. So that'd be really good. It's like a lumberjack match or something. It's pretty awesome.
I played in a one time that it wasn't scrap thralls, but scrap thralls are fucking perfect. I don't know why we didn't think of this before, but they were using zombies coming out of the sides, and you were defending. Yeah. You were defending like a building, and it was this overwhelming.
That's pretty cool.
Kind of coming at all the things, and you and your list had to defend the house, and they would smash on the walls. Yeah. It's kind of a Night of the Living Dead's kind of a thing. David, what about you? What are some particular favorite alternatives for you?
Well, I'm gonna cheat and do two.
Sure.
I definitely enjoy Who's the Boss.
Yeah.
That creates lots of those crazy, wacky moments, things that you don't expect, things that work better than you thought they would, things that don't work nearly as well as you hoped they would. Just lots of madness each round, and every round shakes things up, and you get to really enjoy and experience and explore new aspects of the game. Who's the Boss? If anyone is not familiar, you have your army, but instead of choosing the leader for your army, it's chosen randomly for you. And they actually are running the first ever Guild Ball Who's the Captain event, or whatever they are calling it, right now. This weekend at, I believe, at Muse on Minis Con. They're running that right as we're having this. I saw some posts about it on Facebook.
Oh yeah, that's this weekend, isn't it?
Yeah. So they already posted up some wacky things that are happening. Like They've got one of the butcher captains, I think, leading the fishermen, and just things that are
Wow.
Yeah, that's
out of the ordinary.
That's crazy.
So who's the boss style events? I like those a lot. And you can apply that to a lot of different games where you have any sort of game where you have a main character of some type who can kind of take over your army. Um, I think you can apply it to just about anything. And then the other one that I like a whole lot, and you don't see quite as much of, is Frankenstein events, Frankenstein formats. We ran those in St. Louis back in the day fairly often. Like we'd run them around Halloween each year for a while there. And you can take things in your army that don't typically belong there.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I remember running some gross, disgusting things that you shouldn't do, like bile thralls with Haley and just like all kinds of nonsense. And but everyone is. Like
Yeah.
the whole format is just crazy because you've got choir amping up trolls and like anything can happen.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, you end up with similar interactions that you get out of a Who's the Boss in that type of a thing. Like the time that Keith Christensen got a defense and armor buff caster into trolls. By the way, that's not okay.
Yeah.
Not even a little. Arm
That's pretty
27 or
funny.
28 or whatever it was, Mulg is degenerate and bad for the game. Just gonna put that out here. So yeah, one of my favorites that gets played a lot along the same lines as the Who's the Boss events are the Thunderdome events. Where
Yes.
yep,
That's one of my favorites.
in fact, I was chatting on Skype today with Rich Brotman. There's going to be a a Thunderdome event. I think they're going to have I think they might have one at Lock and Load, and he was considering trying to figure out which three he was going to like Cephalix. And he's bringing Cephalix. Well, there's only two casters, so he needs to bring another Merc one. I said, well, the right answer is usually Shay. So
Yeah.
so take Shay in that list and see what happens. I'm going to be bringing Retribution to Lock and Load, just because I've been playing the Company of Iron stuff recently, and
Oh yeah.
and I've just been enjoying playing Ret. So I'm thinking that I might need to do Tyrone, obviously, and maybe some Gareth, and then possibly some. I'm thinking maybe somebody else beefy, maybe an Asian or something like that, just to have some fun. But I need to rethink that a little bit. But it'll be fun. Tyrone, as far as I'm concerned, is the most fun I've ever had playing Ret. And in Mark III, when Mark III releases on Sunday, I'll get to play sexy Gareth instead of
Yeah.
not quite so sexy Gareth.
Well,
Yeah,
the
I always
most
bring
important
minions.
thing in Mark III for that particular format is the changes to overboosting the power field.
That's a big deal.
You're not
Ooh.
going to have Arm 24 Harbinger, who's borderline untouchable. She's Arm 14 with the ability to boost her power field a limited number of times
Yep.
to go up to Arm 19. So, or whatever her stats happen to be in Mark III, we don't know for sure yet. But we heard about how the overboosting is
Yeah.
changing.
Right.
That's a big improvement in a lot of ways to how that format will run. I think it'll become even more enjoyable.
Agreed. And I would assume that in that format, as it morphs, they would simply give the warlocks the same ability.
I would.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's how I would modify it. But I mean, just that kind of coming up with the craziest combinations you can with it is always just a really good time.
Yeah, I just run minions because Lord Carver, Rask, and like Midas to put Battle Lust on him it's a nightmare.
Yep.
Because you mobility, boundless charge, you put Battle Lust on Carver and Fury, and then he feats, and I think he's like a POW 18 weapon master at like 15 inches, and just one shot everything with overtake too. So it's amazing.
And that's why all those spells don't exist together to be possible.
I know. They do now. Minions together forever. Woo!
Another one that's interesting
Now kids.
are formats where your opponent has some degree of control over what you are playing.
Oh yeah.
Like veto formats have been done certainly and can be a lot of fun because then you have to swap out some particular thing if it's what was vetoed. It also means that you never have to play the one thing in each faction you hate the most,
Yeah.
which
Cool.
can be nice as a change of pace, even if you occasionally lose something you wanted to play.
Yeah.
But then also ones where you actually swap your Warcaster or Warlock with your opponent,
Ooh.
or I've even seen people do your whole army gets swapped between players or has a chance to. So you don't just make a list with 0 synergy, but like just formats where anything can happen just wind up being a lot of fun and really interesting. They're not for everyone. There are people who like to just play the straight up competitive style games.
Sure.
There are also people who want to be sure your opponent never touches your miniatures.
There is that. You know, the best swap one I ever played in was something called Biggest Loser, where you had to put together the worst list you possibly could, and then you hand it to your opponent, and he has to try to beat you with it. And so, and I will tell you with great certainty that Mark II Protectorate is the faction to run, because you have FA3 choirs. You can put so much low pow bullshit out there that nobody can touch that stuff. I mean, stuff without attacks. You know how good the book is in that format? Book's
I'm just going to run 60 bone grinders. Just stick them all out there. Like, here, do something with this.
Oh, bone grinders are awesome. What are you talking about? They can zot the caster to death in no time.
Yeah, bone grinders are solid.
Yeah, no, you need.
But there's 60 of them.
Right. That's why you can kill everything in the universe with them. They just
POW 11.
Zot. No, they combine. They go up. They're not POW 11s. They keep on going up and up and up with their combined magic.
Do they?
Uh-huh. They're awesome.
I don't think it increases the POW.
I think it just increases the how to hit.
Oh, whatever. Who plays
I've
bone
been trying to hit 11s all day.
By the way, we just had a comment in the chat room. God bless this network. So
nice.
Obviously they're enjoying our banters. But anyway, so that's another great format, the Biggest Loser format. But any other ones, guys, that kind of come to thought when you think of playing the game your way?
Well, I think we can move from tournament formats to scenarios.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that they're kind of the same, but they're also kind of different. Many times you'll have this stuff to play a scenario, but you won't have all the right bits and bobs to do that for a whole like event with 8 or 16 tables worth going on. I've seen ones that happen in caves, and they've got like a big old tunnel system set up with cave-in features and weird line of sight rules. I've seen ones that happen on the docks where pieces of the docks can get blown up and warjacks can tumble down into the water and be lost forever.
Yep.
There's all kinds of things that people have done with intricate and cool tables. And I think that, again, that applies to whatever you're playing, not just War Machine. You can come up with some crazy alternate ways to play. I'm interested in trying out a Guild Ball sort of scenario where it functions a little bit like a MOBA, where you're creating lanes with the terrain.
Okay.
Where you set up some obstructions in strategic ways so that you create 3 paths between the goals.
Interesting.
Could be interesting.
Yeah.
Might not work, but weird scenarios can be a lot of fun too.
That actually sounds really, really fun. I remember going
like turrets.
Yeah.
And little minions that you got to move like I got to move 2 inches, move 60 minions 2 inches down these lanes.
There's got to be a way to do it that's amazing.
There was a cave table back in the day at back at TempleCon that literally was a cave setup, and you had to fight there was like people coming in. The attacker was from the outside coming in, and then you had defenders that were defending like a goal from a MOBA, where you'd have to fight your way out of there. And I will tell you, it kind of turns into a little bit of a slog fest after a little bit. But if you took the point costs down a little bit, where you didn't have quite so many models, I think that's where that format, like, get rid of units maybe and just play with solos and stuff like that, and maybe some warjacks,
that's kind of neat.
Or beasts. I think that might be a way to. You got to keep it down a little bit, because otherwise it just becomes, hey, let's stand in a channel in a thing and just beat on each other with sticks.
Yeah.
Right.
So
That's totes.
yeah,
I think there was one I saw a scenario where every round it was a flood, so every round the water kept going up and you lost everything that wasn't in the middle. That was kind of a fun format because I was playing Gators and everything was amphibious. So I didn't really care. So I'm sitting down here like shooting people with my amphibious Gators, and they're like, "But it's deep water." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't care. It's deep water. I ignore it." And I'm running around the outside because it's a 4-player scenario. So everyone's up on this hill, crunched up together, and I'm shooting with my Ironback spinner like Rask out here. It's just like running my Gators around. It was really funny.
And that's one of the things that I think we can, as hobby miniatures gamers, we can learn a little bit from the historical miniatures crowd,
yep,
because they almost never play scenarios that are an even test of skill.
Right.
They play scenarios that are historical, typically, where you have different setups, and one side will automatically have an advantage based on what really happened in history. And it's fun to do stuff like that now and then. Even if you enjoy usually doing an even sort of battle, it can be fun to have some sort of a take and hold sort of thing where you've got to try and survive with your small band for a certain number of rounds, or where you are the overwhelming force and you're trying to conquer the enemy before a certain amount of time limit runs out, or before they're able to get reinforcements, and then suddenly you're on the defensive. Could have kind of like a seesaw type scenario where you start out real small against medium, but then if you don't get conquered, you go to large, and then if you don't conquer them, they go to extra large, and whoever's able to take the victory, kill the opposing caster or something, could be a neat way to play.
We put together once upon a time on the Painting with MenothJohn show. We put together a package of scenarios. We called them hardcore casual scenarios. And I think that is right in line with kind of what we're talking about here. And once upon a time, we had those as Patreon exclusives that we wanted to give off to the patrons of the Painting with MenothJohn show. But those have been out now, I think, for over a year. I think it's probably time to release them into the wild. So I will publish that as a downloadable PDF on PW MenothJohn following this podcast. So if you'd like to check them all out, there's some really good ones, and it's a deck of over a dozen different scenarios.
Well, and they really run the gamut. There's ones that are like a little twist here and there, and then there are others that are just plain whack.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Any radio deployment?
Yeah. Well, Hamburger Hill is radial deployment.
Yeah. Because that was weird. You're trying to get in like a circle. You're trying to nudge your dudes to the edge of this weird circle, and you gotta like measure every little bit because it's an arc.
Yep. So
that was crazy.
Hamburger Hill had a progressive radial deployment. So basically, the first person to deploy would be like 18 inches. The next one would be at 20. The next one would be at 22. And the next one would be 24. And then every person that came in after the first person died deployed at 24. So you were literally all up in everybody's shit the second you came on the table. And I'll tell you what, that having somebody get clocked out and then all of a sudden here you come. Here it comes fully refueled and brand new sparkly, coming to kill you right square in the face. So
funny.
I'll put that out on the website for everybody to take a look at. We'll make that public now. I think the patrons have gotten it for long enough. So
it's pretty neat.
We'll put it out there. It was pretty popular at the time.
I definitely started playing those scenarios. Those sound like a lot of fun.
But Jeff, I think that you've talked about a lot of like almost a narrative scenario, and that's something that I think the 40K guys get really correct. They do a lot of narrative in not in their competitive scene, but if you go to miniwargaming.com or Gaming with the Cooler and stuff like that, those guys really do an awesome job with their narrative style campaigns, and it'd be really great to see more of that kind of stuff within the War Machine community too.
So some of my favorite times ever in mini wargaming, I was playing 40K. I was playing at my friend's house, and he had this giant table set up, and he had tons of terrain. And we played. It's a narrative campaign with Order versus Chaos. He had Black Templars. I had Soul Drinkers, and we had Chaos Imperial Guard and Chaos. It was a Chaos Imperial Guard, Chaos Marines, and then there were some Tau, and I think he had like Tau and Dark Eldar, I think, and he had Tyranids. And one of my favorite scenarios ever was it was this little pocket of our like captain and about 3 squads, like 2 squads of each of us. And we had to go from the middle of the board to the edge of the board in this horde of Tyranids. It was every Tyranid this guy owned was, and they just kept, when you killed them, they kept coming back. And we're fighting to the edge of the board. And we were down to like 4 guys. Like I had like a captain and he had his captain and we had like 2 Marines. And I had 1 Rhino because I was playing with the Blood Angels Codex. So this 1 Rhino that was all beat up, but the Carnifex. There's 1 Carnifex at the edge of the board, and if we got past the Carnifex, we won. And I was like, well, all we got is I gotta tank shock this. And I just ran full force at him with this Rhino, and he's got to roll anything but like a double 1 or whatever to kill this because he death and glories it. Rolls the 1s, it rolls right over, demolishes this guy. We win the game.
Nice.
Because it was just like crazy. So I still have that Rhino upstairs. It's got this little guy with a sword, and it's got a Carnifex head on the front. And it's like death or glory on the side. It's all like got these little like graffiti all over it.
Nice.
And it's and the cool part about it is that whole campaign we had all of these little narrative pieces that we lost a bunch, we won a bunch, and like we defeated chaos, we didn't defeat chaos. But over that whole campaign, there was this whole narrative about what had happened, and I think I still have some of the he printed out these like parchment paper things with the Imperial seal on top that were like, this is the Inquisition wants you to do this X, Y, and Z, and it's all printed out and signed. It was really neat because that was like the greatest narrative I've ever played, and it's so fun when you go back. You play War Machine for a while, and you go look back, you say, man, that was a ton of fun. Let's bring some of that to War Machine. Let's play through like the Castle of the Keys. Like, let's play through that scenario. And you actually have like Circle here and Legion and all that, and all of the great fiction of Iron Kingdoms. You can play all of that. And honestly, some of the stuff I look up in the IKRPG, and I pull that straight out of the IKRPG and just stick it in my game. Because I'm just like, you have all these resources that you can pull together, and you can make all of that narrative fiction happen. And you may lose, you may win, but whatever. It's you're building through this story, which is really awesome.
Yeah, and Jeff, you touched on something there that I think in order to kind of keep the pacing with the show that we want to keep it down to a roughly an hour or so. You talked about this Rhino that you had that had these memories about it and things like that. There's an awful lot about bringing your individuality to the game through your modeling as well.
Right.
And that's something that, we've always focused on my show an awful lot about. And I know that we all kind of brought some different pieces with us to kind of show off a little bit about, what are the things that we like to do and how do you express your individuality? Because, I sure as hell am not going to express my individuality through gameplay. That just isn't going to happen. I'm going to try to express it through, stuff like this. Where my lighting is now going to fail me, but this is my Glacier King, and I decided that I was going to try to push myself a little bit from a hobby standpoint on this one, and work with with water effects and things like that. I'm going to try and turn on a light here so maybe I can get a little bit better. Whoops! Oh, yeah. Now my desk light's not going to work. Watch. There it goes. Got to hit it right. It's like the Fonz. All right, so here he is, and maybe you can see him better with a little light on him. But he's got the purple skin, so I had to teach myself how to do purple skin. I did some ice effects with him using the crushed glass from Secret Weapon Miniatures, and tried a bunch of different things. And that is certainly a way that I knew that there was no way I was going to make a name for myself in the War Machine Hordes community through talent.
Right.
So I might as well try it with painting. And it's taking the time to find a niche for yourself in the gaming world is a lot of fun.
That's a neat looking Mountain King.
Glacier.
Yeah, one of the funnest pieces I've had to paint was one of my Warhogs. Warhogs have a lot of character in the models, and I decided that one of mine should be named Pumbaa. And so on his right arm, I have a little heart that I painted, like a little heart tattoo, and it says HK for Hakuna Matata. And I have this little, it's a ferret, but I couldn't find like, something that was for the little guy. But I have a ferret that I glued on his shoulder, like his opposite shoulder, right? Where there's a big armor pieces. I glued it's a little ferret. So you have Timon and Pumbaa together in this model. You have the big Hakuna Matata heart tattoo and the little guy on the shoulder. And it's really funny because I bring a table and people are like, what is that? I was like, it's Timon and Pumbaa. I mean, look at him. So it's really funny. Ooh, look at that.
Yeah, I decided to switch over to the other camera so I could feature it a little bit more.
Look at those veins popping out. That guy's doing roids. Man, look at that. He's pumped.
Hell yeah. He come off the top rope.
Like big buff Bagwell.
He come off the top rope at your ass.
Yeah. That looks awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, I got a Mountain King here. I got it from Professor Lust or whatever. But this guy looks awesome. Yeah. Has he got little dudes on him? Has he got like a purple, green, something tartan? It's awesome. Yeah, dude, these are great looking models. I put it up. So my girlfriend collects a bunch of Transformers. So she's got all these like crazy Transformers everywhere. And then in our little cabinet with all these guys, I have like this cool painted Mountain King I got from a guy. And he's fighting this sweet Conquest. So I got these big miniatures that fight each other like, I'm a Conquest, I'm a Mountain King. So
it's like the cover. It's like the cover.
That's what I do.
It's like the cover of half of the Privateer Press books happening right there on your shelf.
I know. That's,
right.
Every day I just making my little pew pew noises and punching each other.
Awesome. What about you, David?
Well, I've been painting my Guild Ball stuff lately since not too long ago, didn't have any painted Guild Ball stuff. And I wanted everything to be kind of recognizable from the pictures that people have seen online and stuff, because a lot of locals are really still just learning the game and want people to be able to recognize what something is. But I went in a slightly different path with my butchers in particular. I painted them up to a fairly low tabletop standard, just kind of get them painted, and then used a thinned out ink and paint and water mixture blood spray technique.
Okay.
And once my models were completely done, I then spewed blood effect all over them. And I don't know, I don't have a good setup for this, but you can kind of see the blood spatter there a little, especially on the white.
Yep, especially on there. Yep. Yeah,
but that's Meat Hook, and she's got a bunch of blood spatter, and here's Shank with lots of blood spatter on his his clothing and his weapons and stuff as well. Even the bases, which these are from Tectonic Craft Studios, Arky Dan's bases there.
That guy.
They've got wooden planks with blood spatter all over them at the butcher's shop or whatever it is. I had it a little too thin when I did Ox in particular. So the front of him is just covered. You can barely see the paint job anymore.
But it
was fun.
Yeah, who cares? Yeah. Who cares? As long as it pleases you, that's what matters.
Yeah.
And then, whoops, wrong one. And then, so, talking about trying some different techniques, maybe they're more effective, maybe not. This is my Earthbreaker, and this was my first attempt at trying to do OSL. So I basically did some, with the boilers and stuff like that. I decided to go with, trying to show the hot boiler and all that kind of stuff. And
his name is Rocky J.
Yeah, Rocky J. Squirrel. That's right.
Oh, there you go.
Because Bullwinkle is my judicator. So this is Rocky J. And then we have also some corrosion that I'm showing here with the copper and all that kind of stuff. So I enjoyed doing this model an awful lot. I'm better at painting than I am assembly, apparently, because I put the legs together wrong. And that's if you put the legs together wrong on an Earthbreaker, that's what they look like. He doesn't fit on a base. So I had to build up two bases on top of each other. And then I had to drop a rod up through the middle of them with a big screw and a bolt in order to suspend them in midair.
That's pretty funny.
So I suck at putting together shit sometimes.
Yeah.
Looks good though. That's
yeah, it looks so good. Wow.
He's got all kinds of corrosion and shit happening all over him.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm so bad at painting.
but this
so
was
like this little like the little effects coming out, and
but this
and,
was
like the lights hitting it from this angle. It's like a Rembrandt, like half it's in darkness.
but you don't this is a bravery test. I mean, this is a $135 model.
Ooh.
And you're sitting here going, okay, well, let's see. I could take this $135 model and make it look like complete crap because I'm not sure if I know how to do what I'm about to try.
Right.
And that's what this is. I mean, but because I did this model, the Glacier King back here is possible.
Oh yeah.
Because I learned how to do different things, and I learned that if I took my time and I studied up ahead of time, that I could make wonderful things. And so this is, something. This is probably the model I'm most proud of in my entire collection.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because and then the other thing is, this is the rocks and stuff that are in the base are from the driveway at my mom and dad's house that we no longer own because they passed away and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But so I've got a little.
That's kind of neat.
I got a little bit of the house I grew up in on this model as well.
That's super sweet. One of my World Watchers, because I painted him during McCannonCon, one of my World Watchers has some grass from Brandon's his front yard and some rocks from his driveway. And one of my Shamblers has spinach dip from last McCannonCon that people are still not happy about.
Oh, Jeff.
So
you're not supposed to.
But it looks like a swamp. It looks like a swamp, though.
Okay, once it mummifies, I guess it won't be too bad.
Yeah, I'm gonna seal it. You put some white or some clear resin over it. That's fine. It's like when you put dinosaurs in amber. Like they don't rot. They're in amber. You gotta seal it.
Jeff, you realize that was a fictional movie, right?
You don't have dinosaurs in little amber rocks.
Dinosaurs in amber is not a thing.
Oh. But you can put them in resin, and resin works. You can put
dinosaurs in resin. John.
Aces.
Yeah, I can put
Thumbs
broccoli
up.
on my bases, so it's like little trees, and then you put resin. Resin makes everything good.
It does.
Resin. It depends on what scale the models are. You might want broccoli. You might want broccolini. Like
what's broccolini?
It's
I don't eat vegetables. I have no idea. Is it like mini
just
broccoli?
Smaller broccoli.
Oh.
So
now you learn something new every day.
You're doing a different scale of mini. You can switch over.
Boom.
Yeah.
So I went to see Neil deGrasse Tyson live in Milwaukee. He put on a talk, and he was showing pictures. It was like a scientist goes to the movies was what it was about, and he was talking about fractals, and they showed this Romanesco broccoli. It's called. It's a fractal vegetable. And I can't describe it. I will try to find a picture of it and post it on my website. But it's actually, as you look in, the buds are actually fractal. As far as you go in, it keeps on having the same pattern repeat.
Oh, wow.
But it looks less like a tree than regular broccoli, right?
Oh, my God. No, it looks like something from Star Trek food.
Yeah, like with sharp points on different parts of it and stuff.
Yep. Totally legit.
I'll have to base my Cyrus with that because it's got all fractal points.
Yep.
It'll be
Convergence of cirrus trees made of fractal broccoli.
So
there you go.
So I see you at a tournament, Jeff, and people are like, "Man, what the fuck's that smell?"
The spinach dip. It's like 3-year-old spinach dip.
Our one video person would like to know who MenothJohn is, and I'm the old guy in the corner. So. Because we've been conversing back and forth. The person has done a MOBA style rule set and wants to you're Minion Jeff, and then DC David Carl. So MenothJohn is the one that doesn't have a name underneath his thing. So,
right.
Anyway, so hey, let's keep on the pacing. Now we've talked about color schemes. We've talked about some of our favorite miniatures formats. I gotta tell you, I've got some favorite alternative ways to play board games too.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And my favorite, without question, if you can get Hacksaw to be in it with you, is to play Zombicide as a role-playing game.
Okay. Yeah.
Zombicide as a role-playing game is as good as it gets, and I always call El Cholo because
yeah, that guy's great.
Because man, we're gonna. Y'all gonna cut me up some zombies here, man.
I like that. I think his name is Kyle or something. This guy in the hoodie.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's really fun. I feel like he's just like stoner guy. It's just like, hey, dude, I got like a fire hydrant, man.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
and you're like, we're just and he's slippery, so he just like jumps in and out of these windows and stuff.
Yep.
Dude, I snuck around, man. I got this like shotgun.
Yep.
And I think it's pretty funny.
Absolutely. What about you,
And
David?
there's like a waitress with a chainsaw. Like that'd be fun to role
A waitress
play.
with a chainsaw on roller skates.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, David, what about you?
I think that this is a good topic because board games certainly fall into the category where it's easy to just read the rules, play the game, and hopefully enjoy it. But just as we discussed in the Getting to Know New Players podcast in the Joy of Playing show, everybody's a little different, and every group is a little different. I know one of the ones that comes to mind with my own group, Jess doesn't really like the stuff that's very aggressive and screw your neighbory.
Yeah.
She doesn't enjoy that part very much. So in some games, that means you take a few cards out of the deck. In other games, it means you switch up how one rule works a little bit. And you can change a game that would be a game that she'd hate and really not have a good time playing and make it into something that she'll find fun. And you'll have more fun because she's having fun. And you can tailor board game experiences to the players so easily.
Yeah.
And make everyone have a much better time.
Without question. I mean, for me, Carcassonne is a classic example of that. I don't play with farmers. I don't care what that does to the game balance. It's not worth me spending the last 20 minutes of the game figuring out what farms connect to where. So I just take them out.
Yeah. And as long as everyone's playing by the same rules,
Right.
typically you don't have to worry much about balance anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Jeff, are there any board games you particularly like to play where you've kind of house ruled them or changed the experience?
Yeah. So everyone hates Monopoly, right?
Right.
But
Fair statement.
I played with some friends, and we decided that we should play Slumlord Monopoly.
Okay.
So Slumlord Monopoly is like regular Monopoly, but whenever someone lands on a space, if you own the closest property to that, like physical property, like if no one owns it and you own like the next one over, you could build, or you own that property, on that turn, you can build as many houses and hotels as you can physically stack up at 1/10 the cost. And and you extrapolate how much that would cost them in rent if they land on that. So the problem is it has to stay, like they can't fall over, because the thing is that if they fall over, you're out of the game because you get sued for everything you're worth. So you have to stack, and you stack them sideways. So you start with a hotel, and you stack the little houses up on top of it. And usually about 6. You're pretty safe with like one hotel and about 4 houses, and then a little stack on the side. But if you do it wrong, you're totally out of the game. So it goes way quicker because the first guy that really tries to screw somebody, either it falls and they're out of the game, or the other guy is way out of the game because they don't have any money.
Monopoly
So
Jenga edition.
Yeah, it's great. It's real quick. You play, you can play 8 players, and you're about an hour in, and there's 2 guys left because they're really good at stacking. That's it.
That's amazing. It's a combination dexterity roll and move game.
Yeah.
It certainly changes the who it would appeal to.
Yeah, it does, because it's not like 60-year-old grandmas. It's like Jenga players and like chess players that are just like, I gotta stack 16 of these in a row. And so the people that stack their dice at role-playing games, those are the people we made it for.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the ones that comes to mind that I saw you playing, I believe, at War Machine Weekend, John, is Cosmic Encounters.
Yes.
I think if you pull a few specific cards out of that deck, you can encourage a lot more of the diplomacy aspect of the game.
Yeah.
Get more people to be willing to work together and make that more front and center rather than it just being a game of trying to get the right cards in hand.
Yeah, I think that's Cosmic Encounter's biggest weakness, is that where there could be more wheeling and dealing, it turns into very isolated very quickly.
Coming back to knowing your group.
Yeah.
I want more wheeling and dealing. I agree. So yeah, I would pull out specific cards. If other people don't even really like the wheeling and dealing at all, you could go the opposite direction and make it even more random. Like it's all in your hands. It's your game. You do what you want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the idea is that at the end of the day, the only win condition there really is that everybody has fun.
Yes.
And the only loss condition is if people are, you may have won, but if everyone else there is giving you dagger eyes because they hated the experience, then guess what? Everybody lost. Nobody won that game.
Yeah.
So
that's why I don't play Munchkin anymore. Munchkin is bad.
We have outlawed that game, even though my 10-year-old son loves it. We won't play it anymore. We've told him you can have that when you go to college. We're not playing it in this house any longer.
The only way to truly win at Munchkin,
lose a level cards.
Possibly. The problem that we have more than anything else is that my 10-year-old hasn't figured out that when people screw him back, that's part of the deal. And that's fine. He's 10. We're working on it. Whoop, and then the cat knocked over Jeff's place.
Yeah. The only way to truly win Munchkin as a Munchkin is for everyone to quit the game because you argued every rule and you made it just such a horrible experience. Yeah. That is how, as a Munchkin, if you're role playing, you truly win the game. If you ever had Robert's Rules of Order thrown at you during a Munchkin game, then you're playing it correctly.
Wow. Okay, so I don't want to play that game, and and Munchkin for me is a joke for one time, and then I don't need to. For what I get out of the game.
Yeah.
I don't ever need to play it again, and I don't. Steve Jackson games. I love Car Wars. Thank you for bringing it back. You can make that go away, but I realize it's the only thing that keeps this company going.
Yeah, and again, it's fun for some people.
Yeah.
Comes back to the different games for different folks.
Yep.
It's not one that I reach for, or even own for that matter, but there are people who swear by it, who love it.
God bless them.
And it's the same thing with like role-playing games. There's all kinds of different role-playing games for different styles of players, board games, miniatures games. There's a game there for you. You just got to find it and then find those people to play with.
And I think part of it that we've been stressing in this show, in other topics as well, is that none of these are right or wrong. They're just different. We want everyone to feel welcome at the gaming table. We want it to feel like your game. You do what you want. You enjoy it. You want to have that joy of playing so that it is a enjoyable experience. Not to beat the word joy into the ground too badly, but that's what it's about. Did you have fun at the end of the day? Then everybody won.
Yeah, and I don't think I could have summarized this episode any better, Dave. I think that we've been rambling on here for closing in on maybe not quite an hour, but I unfortunately am starting to run up against some hard stops in my life. So I am going to. I think at this point, I think that I think we'll probably be back for another one. I would certainly like to get together and talk.
Well, and I think Jeff pulled something else out of the Bob Ross videos that I hadn't really thought of, but he mentioned that when Bob's like, if you make a mistake, it's not a mistake. It becomes a part of it. And so
it's a happy accident.
A happy accident,
right.
So I think next we'll have our happy accident episode.
Absolutely. That's right. So if you're ready, it's not. No, we won't. I won't go there. If you'd like tune in next time. We'll talk about happy accidents, and we will be back here on the Moose Machine Network and on the Painting with MenothJohn network, and we'll publish this out on Muse on Minis if they still have my account open, and we'll talk. We'll talk to y'all later. Everybody have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time here on The Joy of Playing.
Joy of playing. Ba, 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 da, da.